Shabbat Shalom. This Shabbat has a special name. It's Shabbat Shekalim. And it's the Shabbat in which, according to the Torah, we bring our shekels to for building the Mishkan, and it's an offering to the Creator. And then the next week we are going to have the parasha Terumah, where it talks about bringing to the Creator willingly, openly, and happily, enjoyable. And sometimes has been very sad and sometimes very difficult for certain people that they have problems about giving, and sometimes they become what they call it. They are tied to their belongings, I call it, and because they are so tied, they are going to suffer the rest of their life being done because they are not free. It's interesting that in this portion, what we are going to be talking about, start with Be'ele Mishpatim, and these are the judgments, or these are the ordinances that the Creator is giving, what we are going to understand about the application of the Ten Commandments. Because this is now application, The Ten Commandments, I called you last week, is the base for the Constitution, not only Israel, but for the world. It's for everybody. These Ten Commandments, believe me or not, contains everything that contains everything that you need to know about right or wrong. If you have a question about if I do it or I don't do it, go back to the Ten Commandments, and you're going to see that they're going to give you a light about. And the way that it's going to start this parasha is talking about slavery. And you ask yourself, why the Creator start with slavery? If you read the first commandment, what it say the first commandment? I am the one that delivered you or brought you out of Egypt, out of bondage, out of slavery. Now, the Creator, one of the things that I've been talking to you over and over again is about what He gives to you. And one of the most precious gifts, I call it, is about Bechirah Hofshi. That is free will. And I say it many times, if you compare with anything else that God has created, blessed be His name, you are going to see that only us human beings, we have that capability of exercising our free will. No other species can do that. No animal, nothing else, only us. And we are special. And it's the use or the misuse of this Bechirah Hofshi who make us who we are. And then the equation of this is about that we have free will, and the free will is going to give us responsibility. We need to exercise our responsibility. And it's very easy, in many ways, to try to blame others for what happened to us, or to make others responsible for our own lives. Others make decisions. That happens in every area of our lives, sometimes. You have heard me before too, letting you know about how politicians and religious people are very similar. They give you offerings. They offer you a lot of wonderful things. If you only follow them, or you vote for them, or you give your support to them, they are going to make your life better. And the only life that they do better is to themselves. But they use the people. And there are people that cannot do anything without asking the gurus or asking the people that. And the Creator has given to us the responsibility for us to take decisions. Please don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that it's wrong to ask for advice. I have never said that you cannot ask other people about what can do, you cannot do, if you are asking information and advice.
Don't follow blindly.
But no follow blindly. You are the one that your decision is the final decision. You cannot say, he told me or he made me do it. Like many times we do. And here, it's very interesting at the beginning, what is talking about the Hebrew servant. You know, I prefer to call a servant than a slave, even that the word ebed could be translated as a servant or as, but it's totally different to what we know today about slavery. There is a saying among our sages that when you get a Hebrew slave, what you get is a master. He's going to take over your life. Because according to the Torah, when you get a Hebrew slave, you need to treat him better than yourself. Before you eat, he needs to eat. Before you dress, he needs to be dressed. Before you go to rest, he needs to go to rest. And, very important, he needs to keep the Shabbat better than you. Then you have somebody, your master, because you are more worried about taking care of him than he is taking care of you. But and there is this man that sell himself to his master because of debts or whatever happened, and then he works for him. If he works and he goes by himself, he comes by himself. If he goes with his wife and children, goes back with his wife and children. But if he goes as a slave or as a servant, and his master gives a woman to him, a wife, and they have children, the woman and the children belong to the master. And doing that, he can live after the 7 years, you know, but he cannot take his wife or children. And because of that, he say, you know, because I love my wife, I love my children, I love my master, you know, I don't want to live and I'm going to make myself a slave. And literally, he's going to sell himself forever. The forever, the olam, according to our sages, means from jubilee to jubilee, 50 years. Then he becomes free, which is a long time. Now, what is the Creator is trying to teach us with this? How unfortunate it is when he gives you the freedom, the greatest gift that you can have it, and you throw it away in order that other people take care of you. You know, there are many types of now things that happen in the world, especially in politics. And right now, there is coming more and more stronger what we call it the progressives and the liberals and the what we call it the socialists. And that sounds a word beautiful, because supposedly means that you care about the others. And they compare with other societies that capitalist, that they do not care about others. And let me ask you this question. What the Torah teach you? The Torah teach you to be a capitalist, or the Torah teach you to be a socialist? What the Torah teach you is to be responsible. If you have a business, you produce jobs to others. And what it tells you there is that you do not need to abuse your workers. Totally the contrary. Because your workers are the ones that they give you production, they give you wealth. You need to return to them that wealth too, and share the wealth. But that is your business. You are responsible. Not the state that is going to take everything from you, and the state is going to decide to whom they give and to whom doesn't give. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I used to be young, I was very socialist. I was in the utopia of and you know, I learned very early in my life that we human beings, we can be very idealistic. But the problem is that our heart has not changed. And because of that, socialism never is going to work. But for a simple reason. Because we as humans, we are very selfish. Then that is what the Creator saw that in us from the beginning and gave us the opportunity to be responsible for our acts. When somebody tries to make you righteous, I'm going to tell you that the only thing that they're going to get from you or to force you to go through a certain system or for you to hate them. Talk to the children when you teach them certain rules in your home. You know? But even that they are your children, they have a little bit of rebellion. And when you don't see them, they're going to do something exactly what you tell them not to do. That is in us. Then, do you think the Creator didn't know how we were? And then, when you read these Mishpatim, these judgments, read it in this way. My responsibility toward my neighbor. What I am obligated to do for my neighbors. Not for myself, to my neighbors. And then there is responsibility. Every step, I am responsible. You know what? I am working in my house or around my house, and I make a hole. You know? And comes an animal or a car, or today a car, and breaks the car. Who is responsible? I am responsible. You know, here in Montreal, it's very interesting. That happened to me. I was driving one day, that was winter, you know, and I went, and at night, you don't see anything. And I went through a big hole, and my front left tire blew up and destroyed my car. Okay? And already, the city hall knew about the hole. Okay, they had already told them, and they didn't even put something there to say there is danger. The Torah tells me that the city hall is responsible for my tire. They say, oh, good luck. When I check, that's the answer that they gave me. Good luck. They are not responsible for anything. And you know what? They are excellent charging you your taxes. The tire tax, the car tax, this tax. You know, today we have a system in which we need to give it to those who they don't have transportation. We need to do the best. Now, bicycles and places, you know. And who they charge the taxes? To those who ride the bicycle? No. To those who walk? No. Who are charged for the taxes? Those who have cars. And those who have cars, now they're punished not to have good roads. That is the social system. Take it from the rich and give it to the poor. Sounds so beautiful. Robin Hood. And that is a lie. Because we do not teach what Torah teaches you. Torah teaches you that everybody is responsible according to their means. Everyone. In this community, all of us, we are responsible according to our means. Not that one gives more and the one gives less because I don't care. No, all of us, we are responsible. If we work or we don't work, that depends what the Creator is giving to us. But it's very sad when we are not responsible. And we want that others pay the bill. In the Jewish community, all of us, we are responsible. No one, no only one family, all of us together. That's what the Torah teaches you. Be responsible. There is here part about also the way that it's written this portion and the Torah in general. You know, sometimes we don't understand. It's written in the Hebrew language, and we need to see words. When you translate from the Hebrew to other languages, you lose that very special flavor. But sometimes you need to look about that at that time, you know, when the Torah was written, there was basically was very difficult to find a book or to write a book or a parchment. You know, what they used to do? They used to pass from one to another, like in any other society at that time. You know, you still go to certain parts of the world in South America, in the high plains, or to go to Africa, or even to the Far East, and you have communities that is still in the Middle East too. They tell each other their traditions by word of mouth. You know, and they pass it through others by the word of mouth, because all the tradition, they don't have the possibility to write it or to have in a book, and then the elders pass to the others. The Torah is written in such a way that is mnemonic, has a way to memorize, okay? A mnemotechnic, a technique how to memorize. And sometimes you are going to see certain portions that has something like a meaning. And you say, what is coming from? And what is coming? For example, I just mentioned why he started with the Hebrews, because it's going to start with the commandments, and it's going to be the commandment. For example, only for curiosity, if you go to chapter 23 of this, okay, and you need to go to in the English version. Let me. In chapter 23, no, look at what it says, and I'm going to read after chapter 23. He say, look at how it starts. Verse 1. Lo tisa shema shav. Okay? Let me read it to you, the third commandment. Now, let me read to you the third commandment. Lo tisa et Shem Adonai Elohecha leshav. Almost by words. The difference here is, instead to talk about the Creator, is going to talk about us as a people. That already is going to give you an idea that is something that comes from the Ten Commandments. But when you read it in your language, you cannot see it. That is what is so important sometimes to look at these places. I want to show you something else. For example, in chapter 22, verse 16, verses 16 and 17. I think in the other Bibles, there are no Jewish Bibles, it's 15 and 16, in case that you do not, you don't find it, okay? It's about the virgin. If a man seduce a virgin who is not engaged to be married, he will pay her a bride price and make her his wife. And if her father absolutely refused to let him have her, he will pay a sum equivalent to the bride price of a virgin. What is the next passage? The next passage is, you will not allow a sorceress to live. What to do with the other, no? Okay. You remember that I said that the Torah is mnemotechnic and to help us to remember, because they didn't have them written. Then, a virgin, the idea of virgin. What was the idea about a sorcerer? A sorceress? A witch. According to those times, to be a good sorceress, basically needed to be virgin, because it was uncontaminated. They lose the psychic power to them. Okay, and then mnemotechnic, they will help. Now, let's go to chapter 23. And this is also very interesting. Verse 19. Okay, 23, verse 19. Now I want that you start looking at how the Torah is very pedagogical. They say, or Torah Haraot, the teachings of the Torah. Because the word Torah, what it means is principles of teachings. Okay? Instructions. And here, you will bring the best of the first fruit of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. And silence comes. And you will not boil a kid on its mother's milk. Okay. You ask yourself, it's in Hebrew, a young kid. Okay? You say, what is the correlation? First fruits, we do not boil the kid in the mother's milk. Our sages, wrongly to me, sorry, I don't want to put myself in any position, but they have made this, what they call it, a kashrut law. That is all their invention. This has nothing to do with kashrut. Has to do with idolatry. Has to do with superstitions. That the Creator is little by little is trying to take them out. There is a goddess of the Canaanites where Israel was there, called Ashtoreth. Astarte. Ashtoreth. And don't worry, she's going to continue correcting me, and I like it. And what it was, they has found in Israel little, what we call statues of a woman with many breasts. And she is the goddess of fertility. Okay? Then there was a ritual among the Canaanites in two ways. First of all, they take the kids from the mother, and in order that the mother will continue producing kids, they needed to cook the animal in the mother's milk, in that there's continuity. And the women who were barren or they couldn't have children, or they wanted to have many children more, they will eat a kid, as a fertility ritual. Now, if you put it together again, you will bring the best of the first fruit. And the best of the first fruit is not only including about trees, talking before, is already talking about the firstborn, it's talking about the first animals and everything else. And that is, God is the one that gives us the fertility. No, the goddess, no idolatry. Then you are going to see how the Torah is so pedagogical, so open to teach us principles and not to forget and to have the relationship. We have lost sometimes that relationship. But I would like to challenge each one of you that in these principles, in this portion, there are 53 of them, you can find which part of the Ten Commandments they come from. I challenge you to look good, and you're going to have a lot of fun. But then, it's going to come something very interesting at the end of chapter, verses 20 of chapter 23. It's something totally very interesting. The religions, they make it to believe whatever they want to believe, and they make it the way that they want to make it. But if you read carefully chapter 20 to the end, and you see the translations, the word here in chapter 23, verse 20, Hine Anochi Sholeach Malach, and I will send to you a malach. Now, what is a malach? Exactly. The first thing that we say, angel. And we don't have any idea what an angel is. We have the wings in the back and things like that, But what the Torah is teaching? I will send you a messenger. And read all this to the end of chapter 23, and who is the messenger that he's talking about? All in present tense, exactly. To whom he's sending. Who the Creator has sent to deliver Israel from Egypt. Who? Moshe Rabbeinu. But you see, we are so fantasious. We fly in the air and we go to other places. And we don't take the scripture for what it is and what it's talking about.
They even capitalize
Yes.
the word in English, angel, with a capital.
Oh, it's with capital. Let me see here how it's written. In mine, it's not capitalized. What is good. But yes, don't get mad. It is okay. But if you change the word angel, and by the way, and here in our community we have two angels.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean Angelo and Angel are the same, only different language. One is Italian and the other is Spanish. And you say in English, angel. Well, it's good English? Okay, angel. Okay. But you change it, that word angel, and instead to read angel, read it as messenger. As your shaliach, my emissary. And you're going to see that everything changed. Because we have the tendency, we love the hocus pocus. instead to go down to earth as the Creator wants us, because He wants us to walk on the earth, not to be flying. When I came to this organization and this community, when I was called to be your rabbi, honestly, I spent 3 years trying to pull people down. All of them, they have huge wings. And there are only the hocus pocus that were interested. They love it to talk about the end of the world. And the Messiah is coming. It's here. And I say, if He doesn't come yet, what are you going to do? I ask that question. Well, He will come. The Creator wants you now, not tomorrow. And this is why it's so important to understand this message today. By Ele Mishpatim, these are the applications of the Torah, the 10 Commandments. Because you know what? Each one of these is only an application. And today there are many things that are coming that are no any longer, we cannot relate it with what happened 4,000 years ago. But if you change the idea of the ox, like you say, for a dog, or you change your donkey for a car, and then if you find somebody that is stranded with his car, especially here in Montreal, in Canada, with this weather. What the Torah is teaching you, if you find somebody stranded, a donkey or animal, you go and you put it to yourself and you take it to your home until to give it to the owner, no? What do? You just find somebody stranded, what the Torah is telling you, go and serve your neighbor. Even if you don't like him, or he doesn't like you, you are responsible. You need to stop in the middle of the highway, whatever it is, and wait until help comes for them to be taken, or you call for help. That is what the Torah is teaching us, a responsibility that we have upon our community and our neighbors. There is one thing, for example, that is very important. For example, today, if you have a swimming pool in your house, you are responsible for that swimming pool. What happens is a baby, a young child, goes and gets into the swimming pool and drowns. Who is responsible? You, as the owner of the house. This is in the roof of the houses. They need to put barriers. Why? To avoid the people fall. This is what and in this also tell us about protection of the animals. Treating the animals in humane way. No abuse them. No destroy them. Totally the contrary. You need to be good to the animals, protection. And the higher level, to take care of the widow, the orphan, the foreigner. Why they put these 3 categories? Because they are the most vulnerable people that you have. What is telling you the Torah? The Torah doesn't say, give me all your money. Say, help them and teach them. In the Jewish community, when somebody comes new, applying this law, they help this newcomer and they try for this person to start a new life or come into a new life, and they help it in their business, and then one time he becomes self-supported, he has the same responsibility to help others. This is the idea of community. helping each other, helping us. It's not any longer what is for me or what I can get from this. This community, sorry to tell you, is not a social club. It is all together helping each other and being together, lifting us each other. We pray for each other, we intercede for each other. And let me tell you, I am so grateful to all of you for these last weeks, because when I was going through such a difficult time with my own mother, and I can tell you right now that finally she's back at home. What a wonderful. I thank you that you support me with your prayers and with your good thoughts. And I can tell you with all honesty that I felt that support. And this is the idea of Mishpatim, that we are responsible for each other, that we need to keep going, and we don't need to look back, we need to look forward. The past is already gone, and the future, who knows? But one thing that we know is what is happening today. May the Lord bless you and keep you in abundance, and bless you in every way, on all your ways and your thoughts and desires that you have. In His precious name, Amen, Amen, Shabbat Shalom.
It's always a delight to listen to our rabbi. Someone actually challenged me recently about that. You know, how could you say you still have a rabbi? He's been gone since like 6 years. But he's still a rabbi. And I'm so grateful to those young men who recorded all these messages of his. We even have ones that go further back that didn't have video recordings. They just had audio. But to tell you the truth, I preferred the later teaching, because even our rabbi was always open to change, to growth. Things that he believed at one point, just like he said, when he was young, he believed in socialism. Now he believes in, what God teaches, what Torahism, I guess we would call it. And, he talked about how, you remember how he talked about the mosaic, that the scriptures are like a mosaic. And the further back you stand, the more you see the bigger picture. And that is something that we really need to get into our heads, because sometimes we get caught up in the words, they say you get caught up in the words of the law, the letters of the law, but you forget the principle behind it. And that's what he's teaching us. It's like last week we learned about the 10 Commandments. Moses went up to get the commandments, and he gave them to us. He was telling us what they were. And now we're going to begin the journey of learning how to apply the 10 Commandments. And the beauty is that he takes the things that we were already doing, because we had lived in Egypt for over 200 years, slowly integrating into their society, learning about their gods, living with their gods, and slowly forgetting ours, which is a picture, a paradigm, a formula for what we've done throughout the centuries. We forget, we live in the country where we're living right here in Canada. Right now it's becoming more and more socialist, more and more communist even. And it sounds, like he said, it sounds good. We all want to share with everybody. But the problem is that there are some who believe that they are more equal than others, so that they deserve more than others. And they're the ones who become the dictators, telling everybody what's right for them. And most people are, okay, I can live with that, until it's too late and we're caught in full slavery. So what's the first commandment? I brought you out of slavery. Out of slavery. How many of us prefer to live in a situation where others take care of us, I know people who have allowed themselves to get so sick. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I don't even know if they really realize that that's what's happening. But it's like sometimes we get tired of the battle and we just say, "Oh, okay, let them do it." But we don't realize how we get caught up in a system that then it's like a spider web. Once we're caught, very hard to get out of it. So the first commandment says, "You are no longer to be slaves." God didn't want us even to be his slave. He never asked us to have blind faith, but to learn the principles that God gave us, these 10 commandments. And now in Mishpatim and Terumah next week and in this next while, we're going to learn all the application of the original 10 that were written down by Moses, but they were given by God. It wasn't Moses's brilliance that gave them to us. It was God. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't accept. I've even heard Jews and rabbis who say that. No, Moses was a very smart man, and he wrote these things down, which puts Moses at the level of God, and nobody is at God's level. So, and the greatest gift, Rabbi told us, and he kept reinforcing this in us, is that as human beings, we have been given free will. And free will is a very scary thing, because then we have to make decisions about right and wrong. But even then, he said, I have given you good and evil. I'm giving you these commandments. They're going to tell you what is right and what is wrong. So choose. Choose you this day whom you shall serve. And in absolutely everything, we need to choose. I'm a little fanatic and I go right to the nth degree, but I'm also unbelievably blessed. So I don't mind my fanaticism. Like I get all kinds of little emails and text yesterday and today. Happy Valentine's Day. Who's Valentine? Saint Valentine. What does that have to do with me in the Torah? Somebody gave me a beautiful rose that was a candy, a delicious, chewy, sweet candy for Valentine's Day. It was wonderful. It doesn't mean anything to me, but I have to be gracious. We live in this world, but it has nothing to do with us. I gave it to my hairdresser. She was so happy because she believes in St. Valentine's. What can I tell you? We have to make choices in every little thing that we do. And that's what makes it so hard for us. So like Rabbi said, have some fun. Go through the portion when we're reading it and see, oh, this refers to this commandment. So when we read, he talked about how, these mnemonics that help us to memorize certain principles. And he talked about we have to bring our first fruits, the best of the first fruits. Our animals, our firstborn male would be a first fruit. And then right after that, attached to it, it had to do with you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. So what does one thing have to do with another? And one of the things he's saying is that, in idolatry, it says you shall not bow down to other gods. In idolatry, they would bring their newborn babies or a virgin to offer them to a god to appease the god, so they wouldn't bring earthquakes, or they wouldn't bring a flood, or they wouldn't bring because everything what was believed in was the earth, the moon, the stars, not God. So they suffered. They believed in idols, and you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. What does that have to do with it? Well, boiling a kid in his mother's milk was a fertility rite to the god Astarte. If a woman could not get pregnant, they would take a kid, boil it in its mother's milk. The woman would eat the kid, and she would be fertile. That's what they believed. But God says, what does the Torah say? He's the one who opens the womb and closes the womb. We have to move away from idolatry, and so many of us are caught in it. I was caught in it for years. I was speaking with a friend, who's telling me even in Judaism, there's a Kundalini energy that comes from Hinduism, many gods. So and I'm so attuned to that now because I was so deeply involved in it. And I was able to see how it destroyed my life. So I want to know now the right thing. And I don't want to do as much as I can, do the things that are going to upset God. I want to do things that are going to please Him. And then when we please our God, it's not like I'm appeasing Him, but to me, it's just so simple. Follow my rules, you'll be blessed. Follow my regulations, I'll give you peace. Who doesn't want peace? Doesn't want wholeness and healing in their lives? That's what I get out of these, these teachings. I saw, sometimes I scroll. Miriam and I talk about the things we find on social media. And I saw yesterday this guru that was literally skin and bone. And he was sitting there on his, they would always sit on their haunches, and one of his legs was bent up behind his neck, skin and bone. And I'm saying to myself, and what is that doing for me? Am I going to do anything like that? Does that make me a better person? Does that help me? I know a lot about Hinduism. And, it's like the way that you deal with your problems is to escape into meditation. There are people who meditate 7, 8 hours a day. How is that helping a family or raising children? There was an expression I learned when I used to be in Christianity, and it was say that they are so spiritually minded that they're no earthly good. And that's what happens. And remember what Rabbi said? He spent years bringing people like Miriam and I down to earth because heads were in the clouds. Everything was mystical. Everything. We were busy flying, he said. And it took him years to bring me down to earth. And I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't believe in God and rejoice and be grateful for everything that He's allowed us to have. And the more grateful we are, the more we rejoice and enjoy life. So we have nothing to lose. Anyway, Miriam, do you have something you want to add to all that?
You already brought up the kid in its mother's milk, and I loved what he said that it seems crazy that pagan ritual, that discussion on that would be followed by offering your first fruits or whatever, the best to God.
The first fruits came first and then boiling a kid, which has become a law of Kashrut.
Wait a minute. Really? I thought he said the opposite.
No, but we read it this week.
Okay, it doesn't matter. The point being,
but they were
God
together.
is the God of fertility. That's why they follow each other. Those
Right.
two passages, because that ritual has nothing to do with fertility. First of all, it's an awful ritual from every point of view.
Right.
It's a pagan ritual. Also, it's really terrible for the animal. Like, it's so merciless for a mother to
Right.
see her child, whatever. The whole thing
Of course.
is wrong from every angle.
Right.
But I like that they follow each other because God is the God of everything, including fertility.
Right.
There was something I didn't fully understand. Like when he says, when the master could be free to leave, but the wife that was given to him and the kids, he could leave freely without everybody. The master keeps the kids and the wife, and he says, well, I love my wife and kids, or I'd rather stay. And he puts the all in his ear. But what I don't understand is what Rabbi Percy said, in the sense that why does that mean he's not like we don't want to be free? I mean, it's quite a thing to be offered, to leave your kids and your wife. I mean, maybe it's just a metaphor, and that he chose to stay, and maybe we prefer almost slavery to being responsible. But I don't know. I just found that a strange example, because he's choosing, because of the love for his wife and kids, to state it. I just didn't understand that.
Well, if I relate it to other passages in the scriptures, like the story of Abram, who's asked by God to take Isaac, his beloved son, and offer him, I think God is showing us that we really need to give up everything that we think is so important for us, and be willing to follow him no matter what, to trust him right to the end. And, the whole idea, all those rules around slavery were not by God. God wasn't teaching us.
No.
He was getting us away from
Anyway.
that. But he wanted this man who, because remember, they could be freed in 7 years. It wasn't necessarily only 50 years. A man, it said, a Jewish man, let's say he went bankrupt, he lost everything. He would have to sell himself into slavery. So he would go into a home where this woman was already there. So this man was being given something that really didn't belong to him. The wife was
Right.
given to him. And if he had children, really those children in that time didn't belong to him. They belonged to the master. So he had a choice. Now, it's hard for us, of course, today with Hollywood love and, oh, you're married for a lifetime. In those days, it was different. In those days, women weren't regarded the same. And so, I mean, this man knew, okay, he would leave them and he would get another wife and another children. Men had many wives. It wasn't, we're looking at that passage with our modern understanding of one woman per man, and that's the way it is. But it wasn't then. This man was choosing to remain a slave, and the sign everybody would see, he chose human slavery to the freedom that God would give him, because God could provide. It's like choosing to stay in a job that you don't like, that gives you a security, even if you're miserable. And then
Okay.
you have to look at the bigger picture.
No, I get what you're saying. I just wouldn't have, I guess, because it says that he did love his kids and I guess I could find many other metaphors that would have been, like, let's say he wanted to stay for the security, he was
Yeah,
fed.
but Abram loved his kid. He adored Isaac, but was willing to give him up because God said so.
Although he knew, he said, no, I understand. I know. But I mean, well, even with Isaac, he said what we're going to return.
Exactly. He believed that
No,
if he
but he
did
had
kill him,
faith that Isaac wasn't really going to be killed.
yeah, well, or that God would even raise him from the dead.
Yeah.
But he was willing to go that far.
Well,
You
no,
don't
I
see
understand
that
that.
about in this particular case. You don't
I
see
guess
that.
so. And listen, I understand the principle. I just wouldn't have seen it in this case. But yeah, if it were his job, and he chose, like a lot of us do, chose the security of the job rather than maybe the unknown, and fought, and God is offering you freedom and to be anyway, I would have understood that. I don't know. I just didn't get it. I
Well,
guess.
you know what? God has a way of showing us things, and something that we don't see today, we may see tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's
No,
also
I understand the
many
principle of
facets
it.
to think. Exactly. But that's the whole idea. When God gave us these 10 sentences, not commandments. His utterances, his words, it's much bigger than a commandment, you shall do this. He wants us to understand the principles lying behind it, which are compassion, responsibility, like Yeshua said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and your resources, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So we're learning to love God, to trust Him. The next 40 years that our people would spend in the desert would be testing one trial after another that we go through in this life. It's a picture of what we're going to go through in our journey in life, that we will be constantly tested by God to see just how much we're willing to turn away and be in the world, but not of it. Yeshua told us this. He was willing to go to the very end, to trust God, even if he was put to death. And each of us have to look at that. How far are we willing to go to walk with the creator of the universe when it goes against absolutely every system on this planet? It talks about the system in politics, religious systems, medical systems, pharmaceutical systems, all kinds of systems. I'm working on my will right now. And, that's a system. I've fallen into a notarial system and a legal system that is so complicated and has made it harder to die than to live. Honestly, it's driving me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
So the earth creates these systems in order to give itself a reason to exist. God is our reason to exist. And we have to learn how to use his principles to live within the pagan world that we have been placed in. Within the pagan world we have been placed. And that's what these stories are about. We got to go step back. It's like even that one I talked about, I am sending you a messenger, a malach. I'm sending, and Christianity says, oh, that was Jesus. Jesus wasn't there when God brought us out of Egypt. Moses was there. But we want to put in our own theological precepts, the things that we already have been taught and fed, but are not necessarily true. So I know it helps when we learn the Hebrew, which is why it's always good to keep up on Hebrew and to grow so we can read the Hebrew, because the Hebrew are pictures. It's a language of pictures, very different from the English or other languages, the Greek, Roman languages that have changed concepts that can never be translated from the Hebrew. So let's see, anything else? The only other thing that I remembered about this that Rabbi didn't mention was that he'd said 3 times a year the men would go to bring an offering, because a lot of is talking about offerings, first fruits and offerings. And we need to really search our heart when it comes to offerings, because many of us do not always give our best. We're afraid. And I understand that. And we hold back from giving to God because we don't trust. We take very easily, but we don't trust. And once I learned that principle and I watched how God would just keep blessing and blessing and blessing, the more I gave, the more I received. And it has to come from the heart. But at the beginning, it's like you got to push a little bit and learn to trust him. But we have those three holidays that he gave us, the 3 Hagim. The Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And the thing he said about Sukkot, which is the Feast of the Ingathering, was that this is the end of the year. And I don't know if people have looked at that. The Sukkot is the end of the year. It's the last 3 holidays before winter comes. It's the end of the year. Pesach is the beginning of the year. We're moving through ending winter very short soon. Next month, we will celebrate Purim. And after Purim, we celebrate Pesach. And then, you see, at the time of Sukkot, you get Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, and then the added holiday of Simchas Torah, when we celebrate the giving of the Torah and we close the book and open the Torah up again. It's the other way around. And God so clearly tells us, do not add, do not take away from my words. And we do that over and over and over, and then we wonder why we suffer. He tells us to give of the best of our first fruits, and God says if we hold on to like every penny and we don't share because we don't trust, we will suffer. And the suffering comes from simply not trusting and being obedient to God. And that's what I get from this week's Mishpatim. And, we look forward to next week, Terumah, which are the contributions that we bring for the building of the Mishkan in the desert. And that's also going to be a very interesting portion. So I want to wish everybody, Miriam, thank you for your input. Wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful rest of your Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to everybody. God bless you all. And let's keep praying for each other and supporting this community, supporting the work that God has given the Rabbi to do in 1993. And we're still here. I'm so excited. Thank you, God.
Bye, Baruch.
Bye, Baruch. Bye, Atid. Bye, Muriel.
Bye, Miriam.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Muriel.
Buena semana.
Sarai.
Bye. Don't forget me.
Don't forget Peggy.
Don't
Love you, St. Valentine's Day.
Yes. Enjoy it. Eat lots of chocolate. Bye.